The invitation arrived on Earth with all the subtlety of a meteorite. It crashed through the atmosphere, breached 3 layers of military security, and landed directly in the middle of the United Nations General Assembly. The messenger, a gelatinous being with 17 eyes arranged in what humans would later learn was the universal symbol for amusement, merely burped a holographic projection into existence before dissolving into the marble floor. "Congratulations," the projection announced in every Earth language simultaneously. "Your primitive species has been selected to participate in the 5023rd Galactic Brawl Tournament." The stunned silence lasted exactly 4 seconds before representatives from 17 nations began shouting. By the time the chaos subsided, Earth's governments had learned 3 critical facts. Participation was mandatory. Refusal meant planetary quarantine, and their species was expected to lose spectacularly. "You barely mastered fusion." The message concluded with what could only be described as a cosmic snicker. "The oddsmakers give you worse chances than the methane-breathing slime colonies of Rigel 9, and they don't even have appendages." In the 3 weeks that followed, Earth did what Earth does best, improvised wildly. Selection committees formed and collapsed. Scientific experts were consulted and ignored. Politicians grandstanded and accomplished nothing. Eventually, someone in the back of a sweaty conference room in Geneva stood up and asked the only question that mattered. "What if we just send our craziest bastards?" And that's how humanity's first interstellar competitive team was born. On a warm Tuesday in July, 4 unlikely champions boarded an alien shuttle bound for the Brawl Nebula, a massive, sprawling complex of arenas, viewing platforms, and betting stations that spanned 17 solar systems and had been the galaxy's premier death sport venue for over 40,000 years. Brick, the beef Samson. Hayes strutted aboard first, his massive 6'7" frame barely fitting through the shuttle doors. Once a professional wrestler whose career had ended after he'd genuinely broken his opponent's spine in a match that was supposed to be choreographed. Brick had spent the last decade on the underground fighting circuit. His biceps were the size of most people's thighs, and he'd shaved the Earth's continents into his chest hair as what he called a patriotic gesture. "Yeah, this ship smells like alien farts," were his first words to the universe at large. "I'm gonna need a bigger seat." Sister Elena Chains Morales followed. Her traditional nun's habit modified with titanium chainmail and ammunition belts. In one hand, she carried a worn Bible. In the other, a custom super soaker filled with holy water that she'd personally blessed. The quiet combat nun had been excommunicated from 3 different Catholic orders before finding her calling in a militant splinter group that believed divine protection extended to those who helped it, along with extreme prejudice. "I shall bring the light of faith to the stars," she murmured, genuflecting before taking her seat. Then, almost as an afterthought, she added, "And may God forgive me for what I'm about to do to these alien motherfuckers." Roach Vega slipped aboard next, so unassuming that the shuttle's biosensors failed to register his presence twice. 5'0" and skinny as a rail. Roach had survived 17 years in the most dangerous prison on Earth by becoming functionally invisible. His talents included pickpocketing, improvised weaponry, and the uncanny ability to vanish from locked rooms. Nobody knew his real name, and the selection committee had chosen him after he'd somehow infiltrated their secure facility and left playing cards in all their underwear drawers. He said nothing as he boarded, merely nodded and folded himself into the smallest available space, immediately beginning to fiddle with what appeared to be a paperclip and a piece of gum. Last came Duina Daddy Ruiz, a 5'2" mixed martial arts champion with a pink mohawk and the most confirmed kills in the history of special forces. Her nickname came from her habit of saying, "Who's your daddy?" after defeating opponents twice her size, now retired from military service. She spent most of her time teaching self-defense to at-risk youth and competing in underground death matches for charity. Or, "This ship have a bar?" she asked, cracking her knuckles. "Mama needs a pre-game drink if we're going to throw down with the galaxy." As the shuttle broke Earth's atmosphere, the four champions received their first briefing from their assigned translator, a nervous, multi-limbed creature that introduced itself as Juran, assistant to the third sub-referee of non-important species. "The Brawl tournament has existed for 93,000 of your Earth years," Juran explained, its translator device giving it the voice of a cartoon chipmunk. It features champions from all Tier 1 and Tier 2 civilizations. Earth, of course, is designated as Tier 7, barely above pre-sentient fungal mats. "I've dated fungal mats with better personalities than you," Doina replied, causing Juran to flinch violently. "Your participation is merely symbolic." The alien continued, regaining its composure. "No Tier 7 species has ever won a single match. The tournament's overseer, the Great Varkon, expects you'll provide approximately 43 seconds of entertainment before your species is eliminated." "And what happens when we win?" Brick asked, flexing so hard that one of his shirt sleeves tore off. Juran made a sound that might have been alien laughter. "If by some cosmic impossibility you were to win even one match, your species would advance in galactic standing, win the tournament, and Earth would immediately be recognized as a Tier 1 civilization with all associated benefits, interstellar trade routes, technological exchanges, protection from cosmic threats." "And what are our chances, according to your bookmakers?" Sister Elena asked, calmly polishing her crucifix. "1 in 7,800,000,000,000. Juran replied. "The lowest in tournament history." Roach, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "So you're saying there's a chance?" The Brawl Nebula emerged from the darkness of space like a hallucination made real. Massive arenas constructed from asteroid material floated in perfect formation, connected by shimmering energy bridges. Trillions of spectators from across the galaxy crowded viewing platforms, their alien forms creating a kaleidoscope of colors, appendages, and sensory organs. Advertisement holograms the size of Earth cities promoted everything from weaponry to exotic foods, while betting stations processed wagers at speeds that would make Earth's fastest supercomputers look like abacuses. At the center of it all stood the Grand Arena, a perfect sphere composed of an element unknown to Earth science, capable of reshaping itself for each match. Currently, it displayed a three-dimensional bracket showing the tournament's progression, with Earth's symbol, incorrectly rendered as a picture of a cow, at the very bottom. "Behold the majesty of advanced civilization," Juran said as the shuttle docked. "Try not to drool visibly. It's considered poor form." The human champions were escorted to their quarters, a small, sterile room clearly designed as an afterthought. The gravity was slightly off. The lighting flickered in a spectrum that gave everyone headaches, and the beds appeared designed for creatures with exoskeletons. "Home sweet home," Brick muttered, immediately breaking a chair by sitting on it. Meanwhile, in the grand chamber overlooking the entire complex, Overseer Varkon received his daily briefing, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate exoskeleton. Varkon had personally overseen the Brawl tournament for 7,000 years. His chamber was decorated with trophies from every known civilization, except, of course, the pathetic newcomers. "The Earth delegation has arrived. Exalted One," his chief assistant reported, prostrating 3 of its limbs in deference. Shall I arrange the customary welcome feast, where they will be subtly poisoned to ensure proper wagering odds? No, Varkon replied, his voice like thunder contained in crystal. These humans are not worth the effort. Place them against champion Drexel of the Scorpion Nebula for their first match. His acid spit should make for amusing viewing as they dissolve. As you command, Exalted One. The match is scheduled for tomorrow's opening ceremony. The betting pools are already historic. Everyone wants to wager on how quickly the humans will perish. Varkon's energy form pulsed with amusement. Make sure our media drones capture every moment. I want the footage distributed throughout the galaxy as a reminder of why Tier 7 species remain quarantined. The next morning, the human champions were escorted to a preparation chamber adjacent to the Grand Arena. Through viewing screens, they could see the massive crowd gathering, alien spectators chittering, roaring, and secreting various fluids in anticipation. The rules are simple, Duran explained, nervously shifting his weight between his 7 legs. Each species sends 1 champion per match. Victory is achieved through death, surrender, or disqualification of your opponent. Arena hazards are randomly generated and equally dangerous to all participants. Who's up first? Duena asked, cracking her neck. Before Duran could answer, the chamber door slid open, and a delegation of tall, purple-skinned aliens entered. Their leader, adorned in ceremonial armor that appeared to be made from the bones of previous opponents, pointed at the humans with a clawed hand. Yeah, these are the dirt creatures? The alien asked, mandibles clicking in derision. My champion, the great Drexel, has dissolved creatures twice your size for breakfast. Your remains will fertilize his victory garden. Brick stepped forward, towering over the alien delegate. Tell your champion I prefer my scorpions, fried with a little hot sauce. The alien hissed, clearly not understanding the reference but recognizing the disrespect. You will face Drexel in 30 of your minutes. Prepare your species' death rituals. After the delegation departed, Duran turned to the humans with something approaching pity. Drexel has never been defeated in 73 matches. His exoskeleton is impervious to most weapons, and his acid spit can melt through titanium. Which of you will be sacrificed first? The 4 humans exchanged glances, and then Brick stepped forward, rolling his massive shoulders. Sounds like my kind of party. You understand this is likely suicide? Duran asked. Brick grinned, a gold tooth gleaming. You ain't never seen Earth wrestling, have you? Bug eyes? As Brick prepared, strapping on the minimal protective gear provided, which appeared designed for creatures with far different anatomies. The other champions offered their advice. Go for the joints, Duena suggested. Every exoskeleton has weak points where the plates meet. I'll pray for you, Sister Elena said, making the sign of the cross before sprinkling Brick with holy water from her reservoir. Roach simply handed Brick what appeared to be a simple playing card. Keep this in your pocket. Trust me. Before Brick could ask questions, a deafening alarm sounded, and the floor beneath him began to rise. He was being lifted into the arena. The Grand Arena had transformed into a complex battlefield of platforms suspended over bubbling acid pools. Jagged crystal formations jutted from random surfaces, and gravity seemed to fluctuate in different zones. Hovering cameras zipped through the air, capturing every angle for the trillions watching throughout the galaxy. Across the arena, another platform rose, bearing Drexel, a massive scorpion-like creature with gleaming purple exoskeleton and claws the size of small cars. Acid dripped from its mandibles, sizzling when it hit the platform. The announcer's voice boomed in thousands of languages simultaneously. Welcome to the 5023 Ard Galactic Brawl Tournament. Our opening match features the undefeated champion, Drexel of the Scorpion Nebula, versus Earth's Brick Hayes. The alien crowd roared with anticipation, while a small section of diplomatic observers from Earth watched in terrified silence. Combatants ready. Remember, victory by death, surrender, or disqualification. Begin. Drexel wasted no time, scuttling forward with surprising speed and launching a spray of acid directly at Brick. The human barely dodged, the acid sizzling through the platform where he'd stood moments before. "That all you got, bug boy?" Brick taunted, circling the platform's edge. The alien champion charged, swinging its massive claws in a blur of motion. Brick ducked the first swipe, but caught the second across his chest, tearing through his protective gear and drawing a line of blood. In the observation chamber, Doina winced. "He can't keep dodging forever." "He won't have to," Roach murmured, eyes fixed on the screen. Back in the arena, Brick was on the defensive, retreating across platforms as Drexel pursued relentlessly. The alien crowd was growing restless, expecting a quick slaughter. "Is this how Earth fights?" the announcer mocked. "By running away?" Something changed in Brick's expression then, a familiar look that his teammates recognized from old wrestling footage. He stopped retreating and planted his feet on a platform directly above a bubbling acid pool. "You know what, Scorpion Boy," Brick called out. "Where I come from, we got rules in wrestling. No eye gouging, no low blows, no throwing your opponent out of the ring." Drexel paused, mandibles clicking in confusion. Brick grinned. "But this ain't wrestling." In a move that stunned the entire arena into silence, Brick charged forward directly into Drexel's claws. The alien champion seized him, acid dripping from its mandibles as it prepared for the kill. But instead of struggling, Brick wrapped his massive arms around the creature's middle in what Earth viewers recognized as a classic wrestling bear hug. "Rule number 1 in a street fight," Brick growled, muscles straining as he lifted the struggling alien. "Use your opponent's weight against them." With a roar that echoed throughout the arena, Brick Hayes, Earth's first galactic champion, performed a perfect suplex on Drexel, driving both of them off the platform and toward the acid pool below. At the last possible second, Brick released his hold and caught the edge of the platform with one hand, while Drexel plummeted into the acid with a shriek of rage and disbelief. The arena fell silent. Even the announcer seemed stunned speechless. Brick pulled himself back onto the platform, bleeding from multiple wounds, but very much alive. He reached into his pocket and pulled out Roach's playing card. Somehow, it had been weighted precisely to slip between the segments of Drexel's exoskeleton when Brick embraced him, creating just enough distraction for the suplex to work. Standing tall, Brick looked directly into the nearest camera and did what came naturally. He flexed his bloody muscles and shouted, "And that's how we do it on Earth, baby!" In his grand chamber, Overseer Varkon watched in stunned silence as the unthinkable happened. The human had won. Worse, he had won with a display so unorthodox and entertaining that the betting systems were crashing from sudden activity. "Impossible," Varkon whispered, his energy form flickering with rage. Drexel was undefeated. The human used no weapons. His assistant stammered. "It appears he threw Drexel into the acid. Such a tactic has never been attempted before." "Because it's suicidal," Varkon roared. "No rational being would risk such proximity to both acid and their opponent's natural weapons." Yet it worked. Exalted One. Varkon's energy form darkened. "This changes nothing. They must face 3 more preliminary matches before reaching the championship bracket. Prepare Champion Vexera for tomorrow. Her psychic abilities will ensure no physical prowess can save these humans." In the Earth preparation chamber, celebration erupted as Brick returned, battered but triumphant. Juran watched in disbelief as the humans engaged in what appeared to be ritualistic physical assaults, slapping Brick's back, punching his shoulders, and pouring water over his head. "You beautiful lunatic," Doina laughed, jumping up to plant a kiss on Brick's bloody cheek. "Not bad for a Tier 7 species, huh?" Brick grinned at Juran, who was frantically communicating with tournament officials. "This is unprecedented," the alien stuttered. "The betting systems have crashed. Half the audience is demanding refunds, while the other half has placed new wagers on Earth for tomorrow's match." "Speaking of which," Sister Elena said calmly, "I believe I'm next." Juran's compound eyes widened. "You? But tomorrow's opponent is Vexera of the Psychic Dominion. She attacks the mind, not the body." Sister Elena simply smiled, fingering her crucifix. "Then she's in for quite a surprise." By morning, the Brawl Nebula was in an uproar. Footage of Brick's victory had spread throughout the galaxy, spawning memes, merchandise, and heated debates about whether Earth had cheated or simply introduced new tactics to a stagnant competition. Attendance for the second match had doubled, with spectators eager to see if the humans could pull off another miracle. In the preparation chamber, Sister Elena knelt in prayer, her holy water super soaker fully loaded and her chainmail habit gleaming under the lights. "Vexera doesn't physically attack," Juran explained nervously. "She invades your mind, forcing you to experience your worst fears until you either surrender or die from psychic shock. No physical defense can stop her." "Good thing I don't rely on physical defenses alone," Sister Elena replied, completing her prayer and standing. "Faith is my shield." Juran looked skeptical. "Faith is not recognized as a valid defensive mechanism in tournament regulations. Then consider this an educational opportunity," the nun replied with a serene smile. When Sister Elena rose into the arena, the setting had changed completely. Gone were the acid pools and platforms, replaced by a featureless white plain that stretched in all directions. In the center stood Vexera, a tall, willowy alien with skin like opalescent glass and no visible features except glowing points of light where eyes might be. Second match, champion Vexera of the Psychic Dominion versus Earth's Elena Morales. Begin! Sister Elena moved first, sprinting toward Vexera with surprising speed for someone in religious garb. The alien made no attempt to dodge, simply standing perfectly still as the nun approached. Then, suddenly, Sister Elena stopped, her face contorting in apparent agony. She dropped to her knees, the super soaker falling from her hands. "The psychic attack has begun," the announcer explained gleefully. "The human is experiencing her deepest fears. Surrender usually follows within seconds." In the observation chamber, Brick pounded the wall in frustration. "Fight it, sister!" "Wait," Roach said quietly. "Look at her lips." On screen, Sister Elena's lips were moving rapidly, not in screams of terror, but in prayer. In the arena, Vexera tilted her featureless head in confusion, increasing the psychic pressure. Sister Elena shuddered, but continued praying, her hand inching toward the fallen super soaker. "Oh, what is happening?" the announcer asked. "The human should be incapacitated, yet she resists." With a supreme effort, Sister Elena grabbed her weapon and rolled to her feet, still praying loudly in Latin. "Your powers are impressive," she called to Vexera, "but I have faced demons more terrifying than you in my nightmares." The nun aimed her super soaker and fired a stream of holy water directly at the alien, where the blessed liquid touched Vexera's opalescent skin. It sizzled and steamed, as if the water itself had become acid. Vexera emitted a high-pitched wail that caused many spectators to cover their hearing organs. The psychic attack intensified, and Sister Elena staggered but did not fall. Instead, she advanced step by painful step, continuing to spray holy water. "In nomine Patris," she chanted, her voice growing stronger. "Et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti." With each Latin phrase, Vexera's psychic grip seemed to weaken. The alien retreated, her glowing eyes dimming as holy water covered more of her form. "Impossible!" the announcer gasped. "Vexera's psychic abilities are being blocked somehow." Sister Elena reached into her habit and pulled out a small vial. "I didn't come to this tournament unprepared," she declared, unstoppering the vial. "This is Molotov holy water, a special blend." She flung the vial at Vexera's feet, where it shattered and burst into blue-white flames that quickly engulfed the alien. Vexera's screams reached a crescendo before she collapsed, the glowing points of her eyes extinguished. I surrender," came the alien's telepathic voice, broadcast throughout the arena. Sister Elena immediately stopped her advance and made the sign of the cross. "May God have mercy on your soul," she said, before turning and walking calmly back to her platform. The arena exploded in chaos. No one had ever seen a psychic attack repelled, let alone by something as primitive as water and prayer. Betting systems crashed again as odds recalculated, and merchandisers scrambled to create replicas of the nun's super soaker. In his chamber, Overseer Varkon was beside himself with rage. "2 victories?" he thundered, his energy form pulsating violently. "What is this magic they possess?" "Not magic, exalted one." His assistant ventured cautiously. "The human called it faith. Our databases indicate it's a primitive form of self-delusion that somehow created a psychic barrier." "I don't care what it's called. These humans are making a mockery of our sacred tournament." Varkon's exoskeleton cracked slightly under the pressure of his energy form's expansion. "Tomorrow, send in Zix of the Void. Let's see their faith protect them from complete dimensional displacement." The next morning, the human champions were no longer housed in their afterthought quarters. They had been moved to a luxurious suite typically reserved for Tier 2 species, complete with gravity adjustments and Earth-like amenities. "Looks like we're moving up in the world," Duena remarked, testing the bed's comfort by bouncing on it. "Don't get comfortable," Duran warned, now accompanied by 2 senior tournament officials who watched the humans with a mixture of fear and fascination. Today's opponent is Zix of the Void, a being who exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. He has never been touched in combat because his physical form is literally elsewhere when attacked. Roach, who had been quietly shuffling cards in the corner, stood up. "Sounds like my kind of challenge." The officials exchanged glances. "This small human?" one asked incredulously. "Against Zix?" "Size isn't everything," Roach replied with a shrug. "Just ask any mouse who's outsmarted a cat." When Roach entered the arena, the setting had transformed again, this time into what appeared to be an endless star field with floating debris serving as platforms. Gravity shifted unpredictably between sections, and strange distortions rippled through the air. Across the arena floated Zix, a being that seemed to flicker in and out of existence, sometimes appearing as a humanoid shadow, sometimes as a swirling vortex, never quite settling into a definable form. Third match, champion Zix of the Void versus Earth's Roach Vega. Begin! The crowd had tripled since yesterday, with betting now heavily split between those expecting the humans' luck to run out and a growing faction who had begun calling themselves Earth Enthusiasts, many wearing crude replicas of Sister Elena's habit or Brick's torn shirt. Roach made no immediate move, simply standing on his platform and observing Zix's fluctuations. The dimensional being grew impatient and charged, its form elongating into something resembling a spear. At the last possible moment, Roach sidestepped, but not quite fast enough. Zix's attack caught his shoulder, sending him spinning across the platform. "First blood to Zix!" the announcer called excitedly. "The human's luck appears to be ending." In the observation chamber, Brick pounded the wall. "Come on, Roach! You can't dodge this guy. He's everywhere at once." "That's exactly the point," Doina murmured, watching intently. "Roach isn't trying to win by fighting." Back in the arena, Roach recovered his balance and began a strange pattern of movement, running, stopping, changing direction unpredictably. To observers, it looked like panic, but his teammates recognized a deliberate strategy emerging. Zix attacked again and again, each time seeming to pass partially through Roach rather than landing solid blows. The human was bleeding from several wounds, but continued his erratic movements, occasionally tossing small objects, paper clips, coins, playing cards, into the space around him. "What is the human doing?" the announcer wondered aloud. "These primitive projectiles pass right through Zix's dimensional form." For nearly 10 minutes, this strange dance continued. Roach, increasingly battered, never attempted to strike back, simply moving, dodging, and scattering small items throughout the arena. The crowd grew restless, some booing at the lack of direct combat. Then, something unexpected happened. Zix, preparing for another attack, suddenly flickered more violently than before. The dimensional being shuddered, its form stretching and contracting as if caught in some unseen trap. "Something's wrong with Zix!" the announcer exclaimed. "He appears to be experiencing dimensional feedback." In the observation chamber, Sister Elena turned to Jiran. "What's happening?" The alien's compound eyes were wide with disbelief. "Impossible. But it seems the human has created a dimensional interference pattern with those small objects he scattered. Each one is positioned to disrupt Zix's phase shifts between dimensions." On screen, Zix's form was now oscillating wildly, unable to maintain coherence. The being let out an otherworldly howl as it tried to retreat, only to find itself trapped in a web of dimensional anchors created by Roach's precisely placed items. And then, in a final, desperate attempt to escape, Zix phase shifted directly into one of the arena's natural hazards, a pocket of antimatter that had been floating harmlessly nearby. The resulting explosion sent shockwaves throughout the arena, temporarily disabling viewing screens and knocking many spectators from their seats. When visibility returned, Zix was gone, either destroyed or forcibly ejected back to his home dimension. And Roach was nowhere to be seen. "Oh, the human," the announcer gasped. "He's disappeared as well." For tense minutes, tournament officials scanned the arena, until finally, a small maintenance hatch in the floor opened, and Roach's head popped out. "Did I win?" he asked mildly, climbing out covered in dust and blood, but very much alive. The arena erupted. No one, not the officials, not the announcer, not even Overseer Varkon himself, had any precedent for this situation. After frantic consultations, the announcer's voice boomed. "By technical victory due to opponent's self-elimination, the match goes to Earth." As Roach was escorted back to the preparation chamber, he shrugged at his teammates' astonished expressions. "I figured if I couldn't hit him, I'd make him hit himself. Basic prison rule, never directly challenge someone stronger than you." "But how did you know where to place those objects?" Jiran demanded, now joined by a team of dimensional physicists frantically scanning the arena. Roach smiled slightly. I didn't. I just created chaos and let nature take its course. Sometimes the house of cards falls in your favor. By the fourth match, the Brawl Nebula had been transformed. Earth merchandise outsold all other species combined. Aliens attempted to mimic human gestures, with many adopting Brick's victory flex or Sister Elena's sign of the cross without understanding their significance. Tournament viewership had reached historic levels, with many openly rooting for the Tier 7 upstarts. Overseer Varkon, however, was not amused. His chamber had become a war room, with experts from every field analyzing the humans' victories for signs of cheating, technology, or outside interference. Nothing, his chief scientist reported. They are using only their natural abilities, primitive tools, and what appears to be statistical improbability on a cosmic scale. Then we end this now, Varkon declared, his energy form pulsing darkly. Send in Krax the Destroyer for the final preliminary match. His regenerative abilities make him effectively immortal. Let's see these humans overcome that. The morning of the fourth match, Doina Daddy Ruiz stretched casually in the preparation chamber, now upgraded to the luxurious accommodations typically reserved for Tier 1 champions. A delegation of alien merchandisers hovered nearby, desperately trying to secure rights to her image for what they called Earth enthusiast product lines. Just make sure the action figure has my good side, she told them, cracking her knuckles. And the mohawk needs to be the right shade of pink. Yuran, now joined by the tournament's head referee, briefed her on her opponent. Krax the Destroyer has won 114 consecutive matches. His cellular regeneration makes him effectively unkillable. Limbs regrow in seconds. Decapitation merely results in a new head forming. No weapon has ever caused him permanent harm. Doina nodded, wrapping her hands with tape. Sounds tough. What's his fighting style? Brutal efficiency, the head referee answered, his translator giving him the voice of a bored aristocrat. He does not toy with opponents or employ theatrics. He simply tears them apart as quickly as possible. Boring, Doina yawned, but effective, I guess. The arena had been transformed yet again, this time into a simple circular platform surrounded by a force field. No hazards, no environmental advantages, pure combat. Krax was already waiting when Doina rose into the arena, a massive reptilian being with obsidian scales and multiple limbs ending in serrated claws. His eyes, set in a face that appeared to have been repeatedly broken and regenerated into something nightmarish, fixed on the small human with predatory focus. Fourth match, Champion Krax, the Destroyer versus Earth's Doina Ruiz. Begin. Unlike her teammates, Doina didn't wait or strategize. The moment the announcement ended, she charged directly at Krax, ducking under his first swing and delivering a series of lightning-fast strikes to what she guessed were vulnerable points on his massive body. The alien barely reacted, his thick scales absorbing the blows. With frightening speed, one of his secondary arms lashed out, catching Doina and sending her flying across the platform. "First blood to Krax!" the announcer called as Doina rolled to her feet, spitting blood. The human appears outmatched. But instead of showing fear, Doina grinned, wiping blood from her lip. "Now I know what I'm working with," she said, loud enough for the microphones to catch. What followed was a masterclass in adaptive combat. Doina didn't try to overpower Krax, she studied him, testing different attacks, observing his regeneration patterns, and gradually developing a strategy. Each time Krax wounded her, she wounded him back, noting how different tissues regenerated at different rates. His claws regrew almost instantly, but damage to his eyes took longer to heal. Joint strikes slowed him more than body blows. In the observation chamber, her teammates watched with growing concern as Doina accumulated injuries. "She can't keep this up," Brick muttered. "She's getting shredded out there." "She's mapping his weaknesses," Roach replied quietly. "Look at her eyes. She's not fighting to win yet." After 15 brutal minutes, Doina was bleeding from dozens of wounds, her pink mohawk matted with blood, one arm hanging at an awkward angle. Cracks, despite numerous injuries that had already regenerated, seemed as fresh as when the match began. "The human displays admirable courage," the announcer commented. "But biology cannot be denied. Crax's regenerative abilities make victory impossible." Then, something changed in Doina's stance. She stopped retreating, planted her feet, and called out to Crax, "Hey, big guy, you regenerate real nice. But I bet there's one thing you can't grow back." The alien paused, head tilting in what might have been confusion. Doina's bloody grin widened. "Your spine," with a burst of speed that shocked even her teammates. Doina launched herself at Crax, ducking under his primary arms and sliding between his legs. Before the alien could turn, she had scrambled up his back, her movements precise despite her injuries. "What is she attempting?" the announcer wondered as Doina reached Crax's neck, in a move so fast that many viewers would later need to watch slowed-down replays to comprehend it. Doina's hands found a precise spot where Crax's obsidian scales formed a subtle seam along his upper spine. Her fingers, strengthened by decades of martial arts training, slipped into this narrow gap and, with a violent twisting motion, tore out a critical section of the alien's spinal column. Crax froze, his multiple limbs suddenly limp. A strange gurgling sound emerged from his throat as he toppled forward, landing with a thunderous impact on the arena floor. Silence fell across the Brawl Nebula. Even the announcer seemed stunned speechless. Doina, still holding the alien spine fragment, staggered to her feet and stood over her fallen opponent. "Cellular regeneration's impressive," she said, breathing heavily. "But nervous system architecture's pretty consistent across species. Can't regenerate if the signals can't get through." After a moment of shocked silence, the announcer's voice returned. "Crax is unable to continue. Victory goes to Earth." The arena exploded in chaos. Earth had completed a clean sweep of the preliminary rounds, an accomplishment unprecedented for any species, let alone a Tier 7 newcomer. The betting systems crashed completely, unable to calculate the astronomical odds that had been overcome. In his chamber, Overseer Varkon's energy form had condensed to a pinpoint of pure rage. "This cannot stand," he whispered, his voice like the death of stars. "They make a mockery of everything we've built over millennia." His assistant approached cautiously. "Exalted One, the ancient laws of the tournament are clear. Having won all preliminary matches, Earth now advances to the championship bracket." "No," Varkon said, rising from his throne. "There is another provision in the ancient laws. When a species demonstrates unusual success, the Overseer may invoke the champion's challenge." The assistant's compound eyes widened. "But that hasn't been used in 7,000 years. "Because it hasn't been necessary," Varkon replied, his energy form expanding. "Prepare the Grand Arena. I will face these humans personally." The news of the champion's challenge spread through the Brawl Nebula like wildfire. According to ancient tradition, Overseer Varkon himself would face a chosen Earth champion in single combat. Victory would immediately elevate Earth to Tier 1 status. Defeat would result in permanent quarantine. In their luxury suite, the human champions received the news with mixed reactions. "He's scared," Brick laughed, still nursing bruises from his own match. We embarrassed him in front of the whole galaxy. Don't underestimate him, Jiran warned, now openly serving as their advisor rather than merely their guide. Varkan has personally ended civilizations for lesser offenses. He's existed for thousands of your years, and his energy form is nearly indestructible. So who fights him? Doina asked, her wounds still being treated by alien medical technology. The four champions looked at each other, each weighing their abilities against this new threat. After a long silence, it was Roach who spoke. I'll do it. The others stared at him in surprise. You sure? Brick asked. I've still got some fight left in me. Roach nodded, shuffling his ever-present deck of cards. Varkan's fought champions from across the galaxy. He's faced strength, speed, psychic powers, and regeneration. But I'm guessing he's never faced someone who specializes in not being where the attack lands. The grand arena had been transformed one final time for the Champions Challenge. Gone were the hazards and environmental features, replaced by a simple circular platform floating in space, visible to trillions of spectators throughout the galaxy. The stakes had never been higher. Earth's future as a galactic civilization hung in the balance. When Roach rose into the arena, the crowd's reaction was mixed. Many of the new Earth enthusiasts cheered wildly, while traditional fans booed the upstart who had dared challenge their revered overseer. Across the platform, Varkan made his entrance, his energy form blazing within an ornate exoskeleton adorned with trophies from countless civilizations, even from a distance. The power radiating from him was palpable, causing the air to shimmer and distort. Final match. Overseer Varkan versus Earth's Roach Vega. By ancient law, victory for Earth results in immediate Tier 1 recognition. Defeat results in permanent quarantine. Begin. Unlike his previous match, Roach didn't immediately employ evasive tactics. Instead, he stood calmly in the center of the platform, hands empty, watching Varkan with quiet intensity. Is this Earth's champion? Varkan's voice boomed across the arena, his translator giving him the voice of cosmic authority. The weakest of your four representatives? Strength isn't everything, Roach replied evenly. Sometimes it's about knowing when to fold. Varkan's energy form pulsed with what might have been laughter. Philosophy will not save your species. Human, I have ended civilizations far greater than yours. Probably, Roach acknowledged with a slight shrug. But they weren't from Earth. With blinding speed, Varkan attacked, his exoskeleton launching forward while his energy form shaped itself into a spear of pure light. Roach dodged, but just barely, the attack grazing his arm and leaving a burn mark on his skin. First blood to Varkan, the announcer called excitedly. The human's luck appears to be ending. For the next 10 minutes, the match followed a similar pattern. Varkan attacked with increasingly complex combinations of physical and energy strikes, while Roach dodged, rolled, and evaded, never completely successfully, accumulating burns and bruises, but never taking a direct hit. In the observation chamber, Brick pounded the wall in frustration. He can't keep this up forever. He needs to counterattack. He is, Sister Elena replied quietly. Just not in the way you think. Back in the arena, Roach's movements had begun to form a pattern, subtle, almost imperceptible, but definitely there. He was leading Varkan around the platform in what appeared to be random evasive maneuvers, but was actually a carefully choreographed dance. Your species lacks dignity even in defeat, Varkan taunted, his energy form shaping itself into multiple tendrils that attacked from all directions. At least face your end with courage. Roach, bleeding from numerous wounds, but still moving with surprising agility. Finally spoke. "You know what your problem is, Varkan? You've forgotten how to lose." "I have never lost!" the Overseer roared, his energy form expanding in rage. "Exactly my point," Roach replied, suddenly changing direction and sprinting directly toward the edge of the platform. Varkan, seeing an opportunity to end the match, launched forward with all his power, his energy form becoming a blinding spear aimed directly at Roach's back. At the last possible moment, Roach dropped and rolled, revealing what he had been setting up throughout the match, a large puddle of liquid at the edge of the platform, created by emptying Sister Elena's holy water reservoir that he'd somehow smuggled into the arena. Varkan, moving too fast to change course, hit the puddle at full speed. His exoskeleton's momentum carried him forward, and for the first time in 7,000 years, the Overseer of the Brawl tournament slipped and fell, sliding across the platform and over the edge. The arena went completely silent as Varkan caught himself at the last moment, one mechanical arm gripping the platform's edge while his energy form fluctuated wildly in shock and confusion. Roach approached slowly, looking down at the dangling Overseer. "Looks like you're hanging by a thread there." "So pull me up, human," Varkan demanded. "This match isn't over." Roach appeared to consider this. Actually, according to tournament regulations, Section 47, Paragraph 9, which I memorized from Duran's rulebook, if a combatant remains outside the designated combat area for a count of 10, they lose by disqualification. "That rule doesn't apply to the Overseer," Varkan sputtered, his energy form flickering with rage. "Doesn't it?" Roach asked mildly. "I thought the whole point of the Champions Challenge was that you'd fight under the same rules as everyone else." From around the arena, officials and spectators began to murmur, many pulling up ancient rulebooks and historical records on their viewing devices. He's right," the announcer finally declared, sounding stunned. "The ancient laws state clearly that in a Champions Challenge, all standard tournament regulations apply equally to both combatants." "Oh, this is absurd!" Varkan roared, still dangling precariously. "I am the Overseer!" "And I'm just a human from Earth," Roach replied with a slight smile. "But right now, I'm not the one hanging off the edge." The countdown began, broadcast throughout the galaxy in a voice that seemed to shake the stars themselves. 10, 9, 8. Varkan's energy form lashed out, trying to strike Roach, but the human simply stepped back, staying just out of reach. 7, 6, 5. "Oh, this changes nothing," Varkan hissed. "Even if you win, the galaxy will never accept a Tier 7 species as equals." 4, 3, 2. Roach knelt down, meeting Varkan's gaze. "Maybe not, but they'll have to let us try." 1-0. By official disqualification, victory goes to Earth. The Brawl Nebula erupted in the greatest celebration in its 93,000-year history. Earth enthusiasts poured from the stands onto the access bridges. Officials frantically consulted ancient protocols for elevating a species' status, and betting systems across the galaxy performed the unprecedented task of paying out the longest odds in tournament history. Varkan, pulled back onto the platform by tournament officials, stood rigid as his assistant placed the ancient Tier 1 recognition medallion around Roach's neck. "Yo, this isn't over. Human," the Overseer whispered, his voice carrying just far enough for Roach to hear. "No," Roach agreed, pocketing a playing card he'd been holding throughout the match. "It's just beginning." 6 months later, the Brawl Nebula had been transformed. Where once stood austere arenas dedicated to traditional combat, now flourished a vibrant cultural exchange center, Earth-style food courts served everything from tacos to tikka masala. Wrestling schools taught alien species the art of the suplex and body slam. Interfaith meditation centers offered Sister Elena's unique blend of contemplation and combat training. And at the center of it all, in what had once been Overseer Varkon's grand chamber, sat Roach Vega, now officially installed as Earth's representative to the Galactic Federation and unofficial ambassador of chaos. Your proposal to introduce poker as an alternative to warfare for resolving planetary disputes is unconventional, said the ambassador from the Silicon Hives, its crystalline form shimmering with uncertainty. Wah, that's Earth's specialty, Roach replied, shuffling cards with expert precision. We're very good at finding unconventional solutions to conventional problems. Around the chamber, representatives from 100 worlds watched with a mixture of fascination and trepidation as Earth continued to upend millennia of galactic tradition. Trade routes had been redrawn to include the previously quarantined Sol system. Earth music, art, and cuisine had become the rage among young aliens across 17 star clusters, and applications to visit the Death World that had produced such unlikely champions had overloaded the newly established Earth Tourism Bureau. Some say you cheated your way to victory, the Rogelian ambassador commented, its methane-breathing apparatus hissing softly. That no Tier 7 species could legitimately defeat champions with thousands of years of evolution and technology behind them. Roach smiled slightly, dealing cards to the gathered ambassadors. We didn't cheat, we just played a different game than everyone expected. As the ambassadors awkwardly attempted to hold their cards with appendages never designed for such tasks. Earth's unexpected champion leaned back in his chair, formerly Varkon's throne, now modified to human proportions, and reflected on how quickly the galaxy had changed. Brick had become a sensation throughout the cosmos. His professional wrestling league now broadcast to trillions of viewers who had never seen combat as entertainment rather than death sport. Sister Elena had established missions on 17 worlds, her unique blend of faith and fighting attracting converts and students in equal measure. Doina had taken over training the next generation of Earth champions, preparing them for a tournament that would never be the same again. And Varkon? The former overseer had retreated to the edges of known space, his energy form diminished by defeat, reportedly gathering allies for what some whispered would be an attempt to restore the old order. But that was a problem for another day. Today, Roach had a poker game to win and a galaxy to introduce to the concept of bluffing. The game is called Texas Hold'em, he announced to the confused ambassadors. It's a lot like galactic politics, part skill, part luck, and knowing when to hold 'em and when to fold 'em. As the cards were dealt and the future of interstellar relations took shape around a felt table, Earth's champion allowed himself a small smile. They had mocked humanity's entry into the galaxy's deadliest tournament, and then they had quickly regretted it. Sometimes, a house of cards was the strongest structure of all,